Did you know that every year the United States loses up to $2.5 billion because of a single species? Feral hogs don't just destroy crops, they come back faster than any control plan, if even one small mistake is made. The real problem isn't how many there are today, it's how fast they learn. That's why in the US, traps are no longer treated as standalone tools. They're part of a behavior management system. So, how do you stop them? The answer lies in increasingly structured trap systems, each one built on lessons learned the hard way. To deal with feral hogs, one of the traditional solutions once widely used across the US is the static welded wire trap, commonly known as the figure 6 trap. The main material is welded wire mesh with roughly 4-inch spacing, tied together with steel wire. All sharp ends are cut and smoothed to reduce injury, maintaining a more humane trapping process. The mesh is then stood upright and bent into a spiral shape resembling the number 6, forming a natural entry path. This design takes advantage of hog behavior, their tendency to move as a group and keep pushing forward, allowing them to walk deep into the trap without feeling threatened. A spring-loaded door works like a one-way valve. Hogs on the outside can push their way in, but once inside, turning back becomes nearly impossible. And this is what real-world results look like. The trap performs exactly as designed. This kind of control is essential because leaving even a few hogs behind allows the population to rebound quickly, returning to destroy crops, tear up soil, and cause serious economic losses to farms. Typically, traps are placed near water sources, travel trails, or established feeding areas. Winter is considered the golden window. When natural food becomes scarce, hogs are more willing to take risks to reach bait, dramatically increasing success rates. In the end, understanding behavior is just as important as having the right trap. These efforts are not just about protecting crops, they're about land and ecosystem responsibility. In Florida alone, the problem has reached every one of the state's 67 counties, with an estimated population of over 500,000 feral hogs. Removing entire sounders reduces long-term pressure on soil, vegetation, and native species, instead of letting damage compound year after year. This isn't recreation. This is land stewardship. Unlike the figure 6 trap, a corral trap forms a circular or polygon enclosure with a wide interior space, built from multiple heavy wire panels. Instead of narrow entry paths, these systems use large drop gates or lift gates. The open space lowers suspicion. Hogs feel comfortable entering together and moving as a group, critical when the goal is to capture large numbers in a single activation. But as numbers drop, capacity is no longer the challenge. Adaptation is. Unlike fixed figure 6 or corral traps, box traps are compact, fully enclosed rectangular units with both floor and roof. One person can transport and deploy them in dense cover or narrow terrain where large fence systems aren't practical. At this stage, trapping is no longer about volume. It becomes a mental chess match with individual hogs that have learned how to survive. These traps are often used by households or small farms, where numbers are limited, or to target older, smarter hogs that travel alone. When multiple hogs crowd inside to feed, the chaos almost guarantees pressure on the trigger, dropping the door. But if it fails, costs can be years of lost control. In feral hog management, failure doesn't just cost you a season, it makes hogs smarter. That's why this design exists, balancing capacity with flexibility. The angled gate mechanism ensures that every impact only wedges the door tighter. The hog's own strength becomes the locking force. Catching the entire sounder isn't optional, it's mandatory. Leave a few behind, and they learn, remember, and pass avoidance behavior to the next generation. The shift from traditional traps to more advanced systems doesn't reflect cruelty, it reflects responsibility. As animals continuously adapt to survive, humans must evolve their management strategies if we want to protect land, crops, and ecosystem over the long term. In nature, there is no undo button. And in feral hog control, one failure can cost years of lost control.
Go on in. One, two.
When wild hogs start showing up inside residential areas, the question is no longer what just happened, it's what's coming next. One uncontrolled intrusion can quickly turn into a habit, and once windows are shattered and furniture is overturned in broad daylight, the sense of safety people once took for granted is gone. At that point, this is no longer an isolated incident. It's a clear sign that the boundary between human space and wildlife has been pushed dangerously close. If early intervention doesn't happen, the behavior almost always repeats. And the next time, it's usually worse. That's when our team stepped in, to protect that line of safety before it disappeared entirely. After an incident like this, the instinctive reaction is often to turn on lights, make noise, try to scare hogs off. But once wild hogs become human habituated, those tactics don't remove them, they just force them to adapt. They pull back to the edge of the neighborhood, shift their activity later into the night, and return once everything goes quiet. That's why the first traps weren't meant to wipe out the entire sounder right away. The goal was to stop the escalation, prevent a worst-case scenario over the next few nights, and regain control of the situation. We placed a drop cage trap along a narrow trail behind the row of houses, the same route the lead boar consistently used to return. As soon as it committed to the path, the trap fired. The response was quick, controlled, and kept noise and disruption to a minimum. From there, the team shifted to the wooded area behind the parking lot, open terrain with unpredictable approach angles. A circular cage trap was deployed because it allows entry from multiple directions, reducing blind spots and limiting the chance of hogs feeling cornered and bolting for an escape. This setup is especially effective when a sounder is still probing the area and hasn't locked into a fixed route yet. After several attempts that didn't go their way, the sounder grew more cautious. They stopped charging straight into the neighborhood. Instead, they hung back, watching from a distance, grouping up, then spreading out. For wild hogs, that's classic sounder behavior, moving together to reduce risk, increasing vigilance when they sense danger. So we didn't chase individuals, we targeted what made them strong, their staging behavior. A corral trap was set along the forest edge, right where the sounder typically paused to regroup before pushing in. Once that staging area was controlled, the hogs lost their advantage. Moving in as a coordinated group became much harder. For sounders that had already exploited residential areas multiple times, the Boar Buster proved even more effective. The system allows operators to wait until the entire group is inside a safe zone before triggering. This avoids early activation that panics the hogs, fragments the sounder, and lets the smartest individuals slip away. It doesn't apply immediate pressure, but it delivers lasting results once hogs are conditioned to the route and bait. At the same time, smart corral traps were deployed along boundary routes. Remote monitoring allowed the team to choose the right moment to activate, minimizing unnecessary interference. At this stage, the operation functioned as a control network, not a handful of disconnected traps. From this experience, one lesson became clear. If you want real results, don't chase tracks. To truly reduce hog damage, control the gathering points, and manage the sounder as a whole. The longer you wait, the faster they learn, and the harder they become to stop. Not every trap is triggered in a single night. Each time the hogs return, they encounter a new barrier. Over time, the area stops being worth the risk. And none of this works unless it's done safely, humanely, and in full compliance with local regulations. Once wild hogs cross into residential space, the issue is no longer about property. It's about community safety. Proper control isn't a fight against nature, it's responsible intervention, making sure the line between human life and the wild doesn't disappear.
I need my camera back.
In many rural parts of America, mornings once began with the sound of roosters crowing and wild turkeys calmly feeding in the fields. Quiet farmland, washed in early sunlight, carried a sense of peace that farmers had lived with their entire lives. But in recent years, that peace has started to disappear. At first, the signs were small: freshly rooted soil, broken fences, vegetable gardens destroyed overnight. Then, the turkeys began to vanish, without a trace. And finally, people saw them. The feral hogs. Not just a few scattered animals, entire sounders, dozens strong, moving with purpose. Smart, aggressive, fearless of humans. They tear through crops, spread disease, attack livestock, and in some cases, threaten the safety of families themselves. For many farmers, this is no longer just an environmental issue. This is a fight to protect their land, their families, and their communities. Feral hogs are incredibly intelligent. Set one trap the wrong way, and the entire sounder will avoid that area for weeks. That's why rushed decisions lead to failure. Farmers begin by studying the hogs. When do they feed? Does the lead hog move first or last? Which trails do they use every night? Only then do the traps go in. These aren't simple snares meant to catch a pig or two. They're designed to drop only when the entire sounder is inside. So the group isn't spooked, and the problem isn't made worse. There are moments that take your breath away. 2 massive traps drop at the same time. 45 feral hogs captured in a single operation. In another location, 27 hogs caught with one clean drop, including the alpha hog, the one that had led repeated invasions for months. But it doesn't always go perfectly. Some nights, the sounder gets close, then turns away. Sometimes, the trap drops a few seconds too early, just seconds short of success. These moments teach farmers one hard truth. Patience is the key to beating wild animals. Many people on the outside don't understand this. This is not hunting for entertainment. Once the hogs are trapped, they're handled through regulated wildlife control procedures. Some are processed according to local law. Others become a legal food source, helping feed families and communities, in the spirit of protecting both land and food supply. Transport is one of the most dangerous steps. Feral hogs are strong, aggressive, and easily panicked. One small mistake can injure people or destroy equipment. That's why every movement is slow, deliberate, and guided by experience. Safety comes first, always. And all of this happens while farmers face countless other pressures: harsh weather, unstable crop prices, rising costs. Controlling feral hogs is just one battle in a long list of daily struggles. When the sounders are finally brought under control, the land begins to heal. The turkeys return. Gardens grow undisturbed. Children can safely play in their own yards again. This is a quiet fight. It doesn't make headlines, but it happens every day on thousands of farms across America. Farmers don't see themselves as heroes. They're simply doing what must be done, protecting land they've spent a lifetime working, keeping balance between humans and nature. Sometimes, to preserve peace, people must stand up, not to conquer nature, but to keep it from crossing the line. We used to think the only way to stop wild boars was to chase them down. But the more we chased, the more the herd vanished, only to return later, even harder to control. After paying the price a few times, we realized something counterintuitive. The first thing to do is stop the chase. It sounds unbelievable when fields are ripped apart and fences constantly torn down. But the harder you press, the smarter they get, changing their patterns. So we switch tactics, stop the pressure, start guiding. And it's that very retreat that opened the door to a sustainable, effective way to manage them. Here's how. Wild boars aren't just strong, they're sharp and quick learners. Every strange sound, lingering human scent, or half-finished intervention becomes a warning. After a few negative encounters, surviving pigs remember and adjust the behavior of the entire herd. They shift their activity times, split into smaller groups, take longer detours, and even scout new areas first. Repeated disturbances unintentionally teach the herd to adapt faster, making them more unpredictable. We realized, to truly solve the problem, the herd must feel the environment has returned to normal. Only then will their natural behavior show itself. From the moment we stopped the chase, the real work began. Stopping the pursuit doesn't mean doing nothing. On the contrary, observation becomes the key. Newly turned soil, deepened trails along the forest edge, gaps between tree clusters, all indicate fixed routes the herd must take. No matter how cautious they are, habits still dictate their movements. These natural gateways force the pigs to pass through. Once these paths are mapped, all that's left is to place control systems in the right spots and wait patiently.
That's good. He's got a little bloody nose.
Silence becomes the most powerful tool. No strange sounds, no signs of repeated intervention. Everything returns to the familiar rhythm of the area. Then, from the forest edge, dark shapes slowly emerge. They follow the same trails observed days before. One pig stops to sniff the wind. The whole herd freezes for a heartbeat, the kind of moment that could ruin everything if you rush. But with no pressure, they move on. And that's when the gateways do their work. That moment is a clear confirmation. Remove the pressure, and natural behavior guides the herd into the control area. Every control system is triggered at the right time. Everything unfolds orderly, precisely, exactly as planned.
Come on, hey! Not yet. Get in there. Get on. Hey, hey. Okay.
The don't chase, let them come strategy isn't luck, nor is it constant pressure. It's a game of observation, discipline, and timing. When we stop leaving human scent, making noise, and intervening halfway, the herd stops learning to avoid us, and their natural habits reveal themselves. The key lesson: don't chase the herd, control the path. Calmly read the signs, set boundaries in the right spots, and patiently wait. That's how you create lasting stability for the farm while reducing unnecessary conflict. This content focuses on management and safety. All measures must comply with local regulations and ideally be conducted with experienced guidance. The first night, nobody saw it as a real threat. Just a few faint noises along the edge of the garden. No heavy impact. No clear sign of a deliberate intrusion. By morning, a few crop rows were trampled, some plants pulled up by the roots. People looked at each other and shook their heads. Probably just a wild boar passing through. It'll be gone tomorrow. At that time, that assumption felt reasonable. But in hindsight, that was the first mistake, underestimating the risk. On the second night, the sounds came back. Not louder, not more aggressive, just familiar. By the third night, tracks covered the same path again and again. This was no coincidence anymore. A pattern had formed. So, what was done next? And did it work? Stay with us. Once the boars started hitting the edge of the land, people began taking turns staying up at night. Fires were lit, flashlights in hand, walking patrols around the fields, just to let the herd know, humans are here. But this kind of defense burns people out. Humans have to stay awake, eyes wide open, every single night. Wild boars don't. They can stand back, stay calm, skip a night, and simply wait for the moment when exhaustion creates an opening. And sooner or later, that night always comes. By the next morning, the damage was impossible to ignore. Fences pushed aside, crops destroyed across a wide area, tracks covering the entire field. The loss didn't grow gradually. It spiked, suddenly and violently, far beyond anything before. That's when the real problem became clear. It wasn't that the wild boars were getting bolder. They had just chosen the right moment. If this cycle continued, the damage wouldn't stop at a single harvest. After that night, everything changed. No more night watches, no more random chasing. Instead, a long-term decision was made. Stop reacting after the damage, and start controlling space and behavior. The enclosure trap wasn't built to confront the boars head-on. It was built to reshape their movement. Once behavior becomes predictable, space control becomes the key. Steel frames were connected into a closed enclosure, leaving only one narrow entrance. The trap wasn't placed in an open area or somewhere obvious. It was built directly on the herd's mandatory travel route, the path they had to take to reach their familiar food source. Every detail was calculated, hidden enough to avoid suspicion, strong enough to hold under pressure, and a mechanism that didn't rely on luck. Night fell, right on schedule. The same sounds came from the same direction. The herd appeared, just like every night before. No hesitation, no caution. After many quiet nights, they had learned this place carried no real risk. That familiarity made them predictable. When the entire herd was within the controlled zone, when there was no clean escape left, the system was triggered. No loud noise, no chasing, no chaos. And most importantly, from that night on, this area disappeared from the herd's return map. One decision, made at the right time, cut off a cycle that had lasted night after night.
Yeah. Let's go.
Hi.
After that night, the land went quiet again. No fresh tracks, no repeated destruction. Not because wild boars vanished completely, but because the balance had been restored. When space and behavior are controlled, conflict doesn't escalate. In conflicts between humans and wildlife, sustainable solutions don't come from instant reactions. They come from breaking the cycle, or damage becomes irreversible. In many parts of the eastern United States, wild boars are no longer silent visitors from deep forests. They move in herds, follow the same routes night after night, tear through farmland, and disrupt entire ecosystems. When numbers are no longer counted by individuals, but by herds, letting nature regulate itself is no longer an option. Communities are forced to take a more proactive approach, not through confrontation, but through understanding behavior. After weeks of monitoring, one critical detail became clear. Wild boars do not move randomly. They appear at nearly fixed hours during the night, stick closely to established trails, and avoid open areas whenever possible. More importantly, the herd consistently pauses at certain locations, not because food is more abundant there, but because those spots serve as decision points, places where risk is assessed before moving forward. In the survival logic of wild boars, routes that have proven safe rarely change unless strongly disrupted. In several areas, control teams deployed trap systems that use no bait at all. These traps are placed directly along mandatory travel corridors, paths the herds have followed for weeks, sometimes months. No food lure, no sound, no stimulation. Wild boars enter the trap simply because they are doing what they do every night. Field results show this method to be highly effective. In some cases, capture rates are even higher than traditional baited traps, precisely because the animals remain completely unalerted. In other locations, one-way gate cage traps are used as an upgraded solution. The design is simple, but it relies on a precise understanding of wild boar anatomy and movement behavior. As the herd moves inside, the rear gate closes automatically. Due to their heavy weight and body structure, turning back and escaping becomes nearly impossible. More importantly, this mechanism avoids sudden force, minimizes stress, and reduces the risk of unnecessary injury. This system doesn't rely on violence. It relies on the boar's own mass, momentum, and natural tendency to move forward. In high-density zones, more refined trap systems are deployed. Here, the bait point also serves as the activation trigger. When a boar lowers its head to feed, the system responds almost instantly. The gate drops at precisely the right moment, allowing the entire herd to be contained. This behavior-based activation increases accuracy and prevents premature closure before enough animals have entered. At this stage, bait is no longer a lure. It becomes a timing switch. The most significant shift in modern strategies lies in remote control capability. Using cameras and trigger devices, operators can monitor herds in real time. Instead of activating a trap when the first animal enters, they can wait until numbers are sufficient, or trigger multiple traps simultaneously across different locations. This approach dramatically improves overall efficiency while reducing manpower, time, and direct risk. Technology doesn't replace people. It keeps them out of danger and helps them make better decisions.
longer and smaller than these guys. Called my farmer Sam, he's gonna come get them.
The wild boar problem in the United States is not a battle between humans and nature. It is a question of ecological management. When behavior is properly understood, control no longer depends on conflict, but on prediction and guidance. These intelligent trapping systems are not designed to eliminate nature, but to restore a balance that has already been disrupted. At night, the neighborhood falls silent. Traps sit quietly, as if nothing ever happened. But the next morning, fresh mud trails and footprints stretch along the fence, a stark reminder that the herd is still patrolling right near people's homes. And here's the worry. Every intervention doesn't make them vanish, it just makes them smarter. So the question remains, are the traps truly controlling the herd, or just teaching them to be cunning? Let's find out. At first, small box traps were chosen for their compact size and suitability for residential areas. They were placed along fences, near trails, exactly where wild pigs usually pass. The first few nights looked calm, leading many to believe the herd was under control. But camera footage revealed the truth. Box traps only affected the boldest individuals approaching closely, leaving the rest of the herd to follow their usual paths, merely adjusting timing and spacing. To expand control, a larger suspended drop trap, drop cage, was set up on the edge of the neighborhood. Bigger, sturdier, with bait in the center to lure the whole herd at once. Early attempts went smoothly, but a single mistimed trigger when the herd wasn't fully inside changed everything. The next night, the pigs stayed back, circled wider, even splitting into smaller groups to scout. Now, it wasn't about trap size, it was about the herd calculating the risk along its own routes. And when the pigs start avoiding traps strategically, the tactic has to evolve. Don't just wait for them, guide them along high probability paths into the frame already set.
It's just a nasty old mess, and I ain't trying to get just nasty just yet. But you can see.
For these observations, the strategy shifted. Don't chase where the herd appears. Lock down their movement corridors. Enclosure traps were built according to terrain and recorded tracks, not to startle the herd, but to offer a safe choice that coincides with the setup. Once the herd enters fully and starts feeding comfortably, the trap triggers decisively, minimizing missed captures and reducing the chance the herd will adapt their route later.
big one right there. 1, 2.
Gradually, the neighborhood returns to normal life. Nighttime paths are no longer hidden risks. Crops are protected through measures that respect the surrounding environment. Wild boars aren't seen as threats to eliminate. They're a natural element that needs responsible management. In situations like this, results don't come from brute force. They come from understanding behavior, controlling space, and intervening responsibly, making the community safer while breaking the cycle of recurring risk. The key lesson: don't chase the herd, lock down its paths. This content is for risk management and community safety purposes. All handling must follow local regulations and be done by trained professionals.